Welcome back to Unrendered. We are into our final segment with businessman Ken Boyea. Ken, when we went on the break, we were talking about the airport. Now let's leave that there and move on to some of your business ventures. One that I want to ask you about. You're a director in a company that operates the tugboat. Now the tugboat has been a contentious issue.
I really don't know why. It has.
Well, let me tell you what the opposition is saying. The opposition is simply saying that even after the tugboat fees was negotiated at a flat fee of $1,000 it is still the highest in the region. Plus, the port has given up revenues, right? And those revenues that it gave up would cost the port some $500,000 a year. This in light of the fact that the port itself is indebted and had to seek assistance through the CDB loan that the government negotiated.
You're coming from that angle. Well,
yes.
Well, let me put you straight. We're not the highest in the region. If you take the facts, for instance, the St. Lucia government subsidized their tug over $1 million a year.
Yes.
There's a Vincentian, very bright girl who is the lawyer for the air and sea ports, and you could call her. And this is why I sometimes get angry with journalists, because these things are so easy to find,
to research.
And nobody does it. St. Lucia pays over $1 million. St. Kitts has a fee that you pay automatically, whether you use the tug or not. And recently, the same boats that come here to bring fuel refuse to use the tug, and they've gone aground. And if it wasn't for somebody going to pull them, it could be a national disaster.
Okay.
We are a small port. At the flour mill, I witnessed the flour mill dock being knocked down by a wheat boat that couldn't go astern. Now, all our eggs is in the Camden Park basket. Or if you go down to Camden Park and you see and it's a very small port. Just you have
a major national disaster in terms of trade.
Trade, because you have a crane on there that it cost over $18 million, weighs 350 tons. If that goes down, it would take a month to retrofit Kingstown to handle containers.
How did you get in the tugboat business?
Okay, it was easy. I mean, I think this is where Mr. Eustace made his. I knew nothing about it. One day I'm sitting in my office, and in comes a young man who I had helped to go to Martinique to work as a captain of a tugboat. And he said to me, Chief, you know, St. Vincent's been out on tender, and the tender's finished in a month. Why don't you put in a thing? I said, man, if you were with me, but you're in Martinique. He said, no, I'm prepared to leave my job and come. And we then got together and put in a tender. Never discussed it with a politician.
So it's not a sweetheart deal?
It's no sweetheart deal. There's no I mean, right now, we have 30 boats coming in per month. If I was to accept $1,000 a month, and this is what was negotiated for the Caribbean Shipping Association boats, I only accepted the $1,000 a month because there are 22 of them. Yeah. $22,000 is way less than my cost of operating a tug. A tug is basically a huge engine like they have at Cane Hall or something. Yeah. And that's one reason I went into it. I'm conversant with large engines. Okay. So I felt comfortable doing the deal. We have an expenditure on that tug of about $35,000 US a month. And if I was to charge $1,000 for all the
$22,000, there'll be a deficit of a
lot of money. So I only agreed to that $1,000 because there were other boats like the tankers that bring fuel, and so that cost a lot more. Yes. In Barbados, in order to make their thing reasonable, they charge every single boat, no matter how small. We don't charge any boats under $1,000.
So is the port, by waiving certain charges, certain fees, I think.
No,
is that a subsidy?
It's not a subsidy to me. It was an arrangement that they made with the Caribbean Shipping Association. The Caribbean Shipping Association
yes.
has a problem with storing containers. They have containers that pile up here, and the port charges them a fee
Yes.
for every container. I think they lowered that fee or something, but that had nothing to do with us. The thing that was bad was somebody came out with this talk about $200 per container. That would have earned the shipping agents or the ships $100 and something thousand US dollars per shipment per month.
Ago. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, how could you try to recover $35,000 by imposing fees of $120,000? It was, I think the first mistake was whoever does the research, was Mr. Eustace, saw a tug company registered 4 days before the tender was awarded. And he saw...
So he smelled a rat?
He smelled what he thought was a rat. What was registered was my giving my captain shares in a company. W.J. Abbott's was the company, is the oldest shipping company in St. Vincent. It was the company that put in the tender and won the tender. Having won the tender, I then said to the captain, you need to get part of this. So I set up a company called St. Vincent Tugs,
Yes.
with the captain with 25%, Abbott's with 75%. And that was the company that he saw registered. Having seen the late registration, he said, boy, there must be something. How could they register a company?
Win a contract 4 days after.
4 days after. You know,
Yes.
so he saw that, and not being accustomed to doing proper research, they got themselves into trouble.
I want to quickly move on from the tug because we're in our last segment. But just to say that when Prime Minister Gonsalves, again I go back to the 1998 scenario when he's saying that you and Starkey John were trying to inherit the NDP government from Mitchell, but you all underestimated Arnhem Eustace's ambition, and in particularly you didn't see his antipathy to you.
Yeah.
Do you agree that Mr. Eustace
I don't know what
has that feeling to you?
I don't know what Eustace has against me, but he shows it in several areas. I really don't know what it is.
So is that influencing the tugboat issue, you think?
Well, I said this on radio, that if it was won by the highest bidder, which was the Martinicans, I think he would have been more comfortable in that he would not have been able to say corruption. But maybe because Ralph is my family, he sees corruption around the country. But you see, Mr. Eustace tries to make a name for himself as Mr. Clean. I think he should concentrate more on policies and things like that. He goes out to say, I'm Mr. Clean. And he looks for all sorts of things to say other people are dirty. Now, you know, in my life, honesty is something I take for granted. It's not something I have to work at.
So you don't have to wear that on your sleeve.
It reminds me of a guy who is a consultant. He's getting paid $800 an hour, and he takes an hour to fill out a $23 expense form.
Yes.
These are the sort of honesty that Mr. Eustace seemed to be striving for, but that's not honesty. That's stupidness. That's,
Okay, Ken.
Yeah.
Enough said about the tugboat.
Okay.
You are the chairman of the
Otley
Otley Hall, the company that's been put there to oversee Otley Hall. What is in the future for Otley Hall?
Well, I think I got that job because even in opposition, I was the person, I liked the Otley Hall project. As a matter of fact, one of the fallouts I had with Mr. Mitchell was one day I said to him, you need somebody to look over the shoulders of Dr. Roller. And he went on television that night and said, which Caribbean engineer could look over Roller's shoulder? He was this is Mitchell's personality. He was taken up by Roller, and Roller could do nothing wrong for him. And Roller got him into trouble. I don't know whether I don't think there's any dishonesty. I just think he got taken. But I like the project. And I think I got this present job as chairman because I'm one of the few people who always said good things about the project. Otley Hall is a good project. I just came back from Taiwan.
Yes.
I took a presentation that Paul Cyrus helped me produce, a PowerPoint. And I had a very good audience in Taiwan. Taiwan is the 4th largest shipbuilding country in the world. And their major market is the United States of America.
Yes.
The biggest cost is getting that finished 53-foot yacht or 60-foot yacht from Taiwan to the market in the United States. So I said to them, guys, we have a place here. It's nearer to the United States. You should come. So we have ongoing
You're attracting
things.
some interest.
I think we've attracted a lot of interest in that, plus the training facilities down there for all our plumbers who run to Trinidad and Barbados, all our electricians. We had already got Mr. Manning to offer $6 million because I was making the point to Mr. Manning that as soon as we get a good plumber, he wants to go to Trinidad to work for higher money. So you got to help us with training. Unfortunately, having lost the election, I'm not sure.
Could you assure our viewers, though, when we're talking about Otley Hall, you love the project, I can see that.